Hi, beautiful souls. How are you today? I hope you have had a wonderful day because this might be uploaded a little later. I thought it was time that I talked to you guys again and not do a collective reading because there's been quite a few of those in a row, which is fine. It's very helpful for people that are looking for some insight. I understand. Maybe if I have energy later, I'll do one for the current time because I don't know. Anyway, so I asked some of the subscribers what they would be interested in hearing about next, and I gave a plethora of options, what interests everybody. And I haven't really felt any guidance deterring from what was determined, so I'm going to tell you a little bit of my history regarding ghosts and past loved ones and how I came to believe in them and know them. Okay, so back in my teen years, when I was around 16, my best friend and I would frequent this shop called Moonstones back home, and it was like a metaphysical haven. They sold books and stones and crystals, pendulums, tarot, all sorts of that sort of stuff. And we became friends with the owners and their coven. They had a few people in their coven of Wiccans, like earth magicians. And we learned a little bit about energy through them, like how to feel it, how to use it, that sort of thing. So one day we were with them, and it was kind of like a class for us, and they asked us to hold our hands like this over their hands one at a time, both hands, and just send energy. And okay, so we both did. And the high priest and high priestess were, I would guess, around my age now or a little bit older than I am now, and they had a friend around their age, and then a friend just a couple years older than us, in their early 20s, I would guess. I don't know. I'm not a good judge of that sort of thing. And when the guy kind of read our energy after he was done, he looked at us like, whoa. And we were like, what? But they wouldn't say anything about it. So anyway, that year we went to their Samhain celebration, which is around Halloween, and we were allowed to invite somebody that had passed on if we wanted to talk with them. And so that year I asked to talk to my great-grandpa who had passed, and their friend David helped me. And it was funny because I could see him in his recliner chair that he always had back at his house, and he was laying there, and I couldn't hear him or anything, but David told me what he wanted to say. I don't remember anymore. That was a few years back. So it was interesting that I could see him, though. Like in my mind's eye, I could see him clear. That was pretty interesting to me. So anyway, the next year, my best friend and I went all out. We got new Renaissance dresses, our first ones, and got all dressed up for the Samhain celebration. And we went, and it was in their new place. And they had 2 sets of candles set up. One for humans that had passed on and one for animals that had passed on, because they had a cat that had passed that year. And so I had lost my great-grandma that year, and little backstory on that, It was my dad's mother's mother who had passed, and I had my own house by this point, and my parents had asked me to check their answering machine while they were gone one weekend because great-grandma was in the hospital. She had fallen and hurt herself, and they weren't sure how she was going to do. She was quite up there in age. And so I said, okay, fine. And I checked, Saturday and Sunday there were no messages, so I didn't think anything of it. And then Monday came and went, and Tuesday morning I called my mom about something, and she answered and she said, oh shit. And I was like, my mom does not cuss. And I said, what? And she said, great-grandma passed, and we all got back from her funeral last night. I was like, what? So I lived in Kansas at the time, okay? And my whole family went to Oklahoma for the funeral without me. Like, the boys got out of school, my parents were off of work, and I was working. And I was like, you forgot about me? Which this has happened all my life. I always felt like they forgot about me, so I wasn't really shocked, but I was a little hurt. I was like, okay, fine. And my grandma came in that afternoon. I was working at a medical facility, and she came in and she was crying, and she's like, I'm so sorry, I forgot. I thought I called everybody. I was like, it's okay, Grandma. You would think my family would remember they have a daughter. So I'm the only one, and 3 brothers. But I was like, it's okay, Grandma. So at this Samhain celebration, I figured if I wanted to talk to her, I could contact her on my own, and I wasn't going to have them invite her in. I was just going to do light a candle for her and my other great-grandma that had passed. So I lit one for the first great-grandma, and then right when I was getting ready to light the candle for that great-grandma, like right before I touched the match to the wick, she came up behind me and hugged me, and it took the breath out of me, and I started crying, and I could hear her like high-pitched talking, like, and I couldn't understand her, but she was there, and it freaked me out. I wasn't expecting it, and I just stood there and cried for a few minutes, and then my best friend came over, and she's like, what's wrong? Are you okay? I was like, my great-grandma scared me. I didn't expect her, and she's here. She's like, well, let's sit down, and we sat down, and then the priest came over, the high priest came over, and he asked if I was okay, and I said, yeah, and he's like, is there somebody here? And I was like, yeah. He's like, well, and what's her name, and I'll invite her in the circle. I was like, well, you can invite her. She's already here, but you can invite her if you want. And so he did, and then the same David that had helped me with great-grandpa took me aside and helped me with her, and he said, just because they've passed on doesn't mean they're all-knowing and totally forgiven everything and like in perfect light and all, you know what I'm saying. He was like, they still have their own personalities and their own opinions and things, so take it with a grain of salt. I was like, okay, fine. And so she did have a few things to say to me. I remember them to this day. I won't go into it. So anyway, that experience showed me that I could feel them, I could hear them, and I already knew I could see them. And so yeah. And since then, 2011, my grandpa, my closest grandparent, passed away from cancer. And it was March 14th, 2011. And it was very hard to say goodbye to him, because I love him dearly. But he has proven that the love does not leave. Love is always connecting us. Love is creator and creates the universe, creates us. That's how we're made in Source's God's image, is out of love. He leaves me coins all the time. I can feel him. I've gotten 2 or 3 hugs from him, and they're otherworldly. They're like, you feel it in your whole being. They're awesome. And they always watch over you. They're part of your entourage. Oh yeah, that's another thing I was going to talk about. Your entourage is made up of different beings for you. It's specific to you. There's your guardian angel. There are loved ones that have passed that are always watching over you from the other side. You have spirit guides. Some of them are with you your whole life. There can be specific ones for specific areas of your life. Always, always, Source or God is always with you. He knows your soul name. He knows you much better than you know yourself. And he loves you no matter what. Always. The only person that judges you when you pass is yourself. And you judge yourself from your highest soul, your oversoul. And you see where you could have done better. And that's why it's important to act out of love always. And you'll find you learn your lessons and glide through challenges a lot easier when you're acting and reacting out of love and from your heart space. So, if you have questions about this little talk, please leave a comment or whatever is on your mind. I would love to hear it. And maybe that'll spur the next talk. So anyway, that's just a little history about spirits and me. I have other stories too. Oh, a lot of stories on that. But this is just a quick little introduction to my history with learning for myself about spirits. So, if you would like to hear anything or have any questions, please share. If you're thinking of it, you know somebody else is too. So, let's share the love. Alright. I will talk to you guys again soon. Much love and light to all of you.